Okay, so if you're a project control apprentice, you are juggling a lot. You've got schedules, budgets, and this whole long list of standards. And one of the trickiest ones, it's gotta be K9, the one about health and safety. It can feel like it's not even part of your job. Well, today we're gonna totally demystify it. We'll give you a simple playbook for mastering this, because it's an absolutely crucial part of your role. So let's dive in.
First up, I want you to meet Jody. She's a level 6 project control apprentice, probably a lot like you. She's smart, she's ambitious, and she's working on some really cool new projects over at her company, Ibis Stores. But her manager, Riddle, is all about those super tight deadlines, and there's this one little part of her portfolio that is giving her a massive headache. And this is exactly what's running through her head. She's looking at her KSBs, her knowledge, skills, and behaviors. And this one, K9, just feels like it's from another planet. All this jargon about HSE, CDM, it feels so overwhelming, and she just can't see how it connects to her actual job of managing schedules and costs. Does that sound a little familiar?
So luckily, after a quick chat with her coach, Olivia, Jody reaches out to her mentor, a guy named Adam. He's been in the project control game for years, and when he sees Jody stressing out, he knows exactly how to reframe the problem. He tells her, look, you're not looking at a list of scary regulations. You're just looking at the project's safety rulebook.
And right there, that's our first big mental shift. We're not talking about becoming safety experts here. Not at all. We're just talking about understanding the rulebook that makes sure our projects get built safely and responsibly. So, let's actually break down what's inside this so-called rulebook.
Okay, so this is the official definition. K9 is all about understanding the legal and industry requirements for safety. But you know what's really important here? Look at those words, how projects are planned, controlled, and delivered. See? It's already bringing it right back into our world, into project control.
But Jody's question is the one we all have, right? What does this academic-sounding definition actually mean when you're right in the middle of planning a new store rollout? How does this rulebook really affect your day-to-day work with timelines and budgets? This is where Adam's great analogy comes into play.
So Adam says, Jody, think of it like building flat-pack furniture. The project, that's you assembling the new store display. The plan, that's your instruction manual. And K9, all that HSE stuff, it's just the safety warnings in that manual. The little icons that say, hey, get a friend to help lift this heavy part, or make sure you attach this to the wall so it doesn't fall on someone.
And this is the light bulb moment. Your job isn't to be the safety inspector walking around with a clipboard. Nope. It's to read those warnings in the instruction manual and make sure the plan, your project schedule, your budget, actually accounts for them. You need to make sure you've scheduled time for that second person to help and that you've budgeted for the wall bracket. You're the one who makes sure the plan is not just realistic, but also safe.
So Adam then explains to Jody that mastering this isn't some big, scary jump. It's a journey. And he lays out this really clear 4-stage path that'll take you from being a total beginner to a confident pro who knows that rulebook inside and out. And this just lays it all out so perfectly. You start with the foundational stuff, then you learn to apply it, then you analyze its impact, and finally, you integrate it into everything you do. So let's break this journey down a little bit, starting with those first 2 stages. All right, so stages 1 and 2 are all about building your base. First, you just learn the language. What does HSE even stand for? What on earth are the CDM, the Construction Design and Management Regulations? Then in stage 2, you start connecting those terms to your actual job. How does a specific safety rule add time to the schedule? How does it add cost to the budget? You're linking that rulebook directly to your project plan. And then you level up. In stage 3, you're not just reacting to the rules anymore. You're proactively analyzing the data. You can look at a project plan and say, that sequence of tasks looks a bit risky from a safety perspective. We might see some delays there. And by stage 4, it's just second nature. You're sitting in a high-level meeting, confidently explaining how your project controls are ensuring the project is not just on time and on budget, but also fully compliant and safe. Okay, so Jody gets the journey now. She sees the path. But her next question is the really important one. Okay, but how do I prove this in my portfolio on a system like Aptem? How do I make all this learning visible? And this is all about turning that knowledge into solid, tangible evidence. And this is just so important. Okay, evidence is passive. It's basically just writing down a definition. Great evidence, though, that's active.
That shows you using the knowledge. So instead of just defining CDM, you show an actual project plan where you've highlighted, look, this is where we consider the CDM roles. Instead of just stating that HSE is a risk, you write a powerful reflective statement about a time you used your understanding of HSE to influence a real decision for the better. You're showing cause and effect.
Now, when it comes to your endpoint assessment, your EPA, the assessors, they basically have a checklist. They want to see that you can speak the language, that you're fluent in this stuff. They want to know that you understand your specific responsibilities, not the safety officers. And crucially, they need to see proof that your knowledge actually informed a real decision on a real project. And of course, everything you say and show has to be at that level 6 professional standard. So, let's get super practical. The final hurdle is that EPA professional discussion. This is where you really have to think on your feet. So Adam decides to run a little mock interview with Jody to get her ready for the real thing.
And Adam hits her with a classic EPA question. Can you explain how health and safety requirements might influence a project's cost and schedule? Now, this question is designed to test your applied and analytical understanding. It's not asking you to recite a definition, it's asking you to make a connection. And here is how you structure a killer answer. You start by making that direct link. HSE requirements directly impact project controls in several ways. Then you give specific, concrete examples. For cost, you talk about budgeting for safety gear or setting aside contingency funds for known safety risks. For the schedule, you mention things like safety inductions or waiting for work permits have to be built into your timeline and sequence. And you always finish by explaining the consequences of getting it wrong. The huge fines, the massive project delays that come from non-compliance. That shows you really get the why.
And that's really Adam's final piece of advice. Jody totally gets it now. K9 isn't some scary separate subject she has to memorize. It's not about becoming a lawyer or a safety inspector. It's about understanding the why behind all those rules, and then weaving that understanding right into the fabric of your project plans, your schedules, and your budgets.
So just remember that K9 isn't a hurdle you have to jump over. It's your project safety rulebook. And as a project controller, you're in the driver's seat. You're one of the key people who can make sure that rulebook is actually followed. So the real question is, what's one thing you'll do differently tomorrow to build a better, safer, and more robust project plan?